And so just again, take a breath. Maybe you've had a busy day, but you want to just let go of whatever has happened in the past. Release any concern for the future. And just allow your energy to drop down into your heart, down into your body, to become really present. This is your breakthrough moment. And we're going to first talk about infinite organizing power. Now, we've really talked a lot about the idea that consciousness, your consciousness, is the source of all the substance that makes up your life. That nobody and nothing outside of you ultimately is the source, that your consciousness is. And that you're beginning to circulate and radiate this energy of abundance into your life. But it's important to understand that while it comes from you, it often comes through channels. So yes, your consciousness is the source of all abundance, but it often manifests through channels, through your job, through your spouse, through your friends, through your family, through whatever. However, so everyone and everything is a channel, but nobody and nothing is the source. So it comes through people, but it does not come from them. That's a key principle that often your idea of how things should be fulfilled or where things should come from is profoundly limiting the possibilities. So if you're giving to your partner, or giving at your place of business, or giving to a friend, and then you sit back and wait for that particular channel to return something to you, for the flow to come back from that channel, that's a very big mistake that people make even when they begin to understand this. That's not how life works. For whatever reason, that channel may not be the right channel, they may not be a willing channel, but if you are willing to give unconditionally, to begin to circulate and open up all the channels we talked about with the 7 wealth activators, and you start to get that flow in your life, and you're just generating and giving and serving and shining and circulating, you don't look to any specific channel for it to come back. You may show up at work and you may give the best, more and more than they're even asking for, more than they're paying you for. And they may never say, wow, you're amazing, let me give you a raise, or wow, you're so giving and generous, let's throw a party for you, or whatever the case may be. But if you're doing that, and that particular channel is not willing or able to flow and circulate that back to you, then another channel will show up. Or if that environment can't expand to begin to operate at the level you're now circulating, you'll be moved out of that environment into a better one. And I tell a story about how I was a waiter and I was working at a job I hated. I had gone from being in this actor, up and coming, starring in movies and all this stuff, to having a spiritual opening and everything falling apart. And, as I talked about my story, cloistering myself in my apartment, and eventually I had to get a job. And I got a job as a waiter very reluctantly. I was humiliated because people would come in I'd been like in movies with, and I'd have to wait on them. And it was really embarrassing, really humiliating, and it brought up a lot of stuff in me. But I was beginning to understand this process and this principle of showing up and circulating, that whatever was missing was what I wasn't giving. And I was no longer going to wait for conditions to change to start being a generative being of the energy of abundance in my life. So I started showing up as if this was my dream job, and just giving and giving and giving 5-star service in a 3-star restaurant and helping the other employees, and they were suspicious of me and they didn't know what I was up to, and I got fired. And I'm like, what? How did that happen? And so eventually they realized it was a mistake. They hired me back. And now I feel even worse because now I'm the guy that got fired, and people are like suspicious of me, wondering what I'm up to. And I began to again dig in and engage and serve and circulate and radiate this energy and be excellent and be creative and be all the things, give of my talent, give of my time, as we talked about in the 7 gifts. I began to really show up that way and circulate that. And I started to feel really good again, empowered, inspired. And then I got fired again. And I'm like, what? I'm getting like notes from corporate. People are like, talking about what a great job I'm doing. Customers are writing to the company, and I get fired. And the one manager who liked me said, the other manager, I think, thinks you're gunning for their job, and I think they kind of scapegoated you for something. You're cool, come back. So I was hired again. And now I'm like, really walking on eggshells at first, but I decide I'm all in. Something's happening here. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more expanded. I'm actually feeling more abundant, even though I'm still working this, kind of crappy waiter's job. But I began to bring everything again to it. And now I was flying. I felt like I was living my destiny, because I was showing up and I was circulating all this energy of love and gratitude and celebration and inspiration and creativity and excellence. I wasn't waiting for anybody anymore. I didn't care what anybody thought of me. And I was flying, and I got fired a third time. And I was like, okay, this, what's the problem here? They're not giving back at all. It's not circulating back. Something's wrong. And I realized that what was happening is I kept expanding my channel and circulating more and more, and that channel simply wasn't capable of returning the flow to me. And that allowed me to have a little comfort, and I realized, okay, something's expanding and happening, and within a month of that, I got hired. And I went from making $50 a day to $1,000 a day. I went from waiting on people in a 3-star restaurant to being wined and dined in 5-star restaurants around the country. And to merely dreaming about giving my gifts, talents, and abilities to being paid well and respected and valued at that level. Now that happened like a month or so later. But the key is, so it came from a whole different channel I couldn't have imagined. But that didn't happen after I left that job. It happened while I was on the job. I was circulating, I was generating, I was showing up. There's a lot of flow and affluence in me. And eventually it reached a point where that channel couldn't handle it. It spun me out and it directed me to the channel that could, and my life blossomed to a whole new level of abundance. So that's the power here. So if I would have just continually felt like it had to come from that channel, I would have collapsed all of infinite organizing possibility into one. Like my story about getting the job on the commercial. That wasn't even in my purview. It wasn't even part of my self-concept. If I thought that it had to come from the channels that I was aware of, I would have greatly limited what the universe is possible, the infinite organizing power of the universe. So nobody and nothing is your source. Everybody and everything is your channel. You have infinite organizing possibility. The universe has an infinite variety of ways it can organize the way for that to flow back to you. So you don't look to anybody as the specific place. Okay, so you got that? It's pretty cool, huh?